Welcome back to my channel. Today we will learn about one of the most dramatic and shocking storylines that could potentially unfold in the world of the bold and the beautiful. This is a story filled with passion, betrayal, jealousy, and consequences that will shake the very foundation of relationships we have come to know and love. So sit back, relax, and let me take you through this intense narrative that explores the darker side of human emotions and the dangerous consequences of obsessive. The stage is set in Deacon Sharp's apartment, a place that has witnessed countless moments of drama and emotional turmoil throughout the years. But what we are about to unfold is perhaps one of the most disturbing and intense scenarios that could ever happen within these walls. It all begins with Taylor Hayes, a woman who has always been known for her strength, her intelligence, and her ability to navigate through the most complicated situations. However, even the strongest women can find themselves entangled in situations they never anticipated or planned for. Taylor made a decision that would change everything. She decided to visit Deacon's apartment with a very specific purpose in mind. Her intention was clear and unwavering. She needed to end this inappropriate relationship before things spiraled completely out of control. This was not a decision made lightly. Taylor, being the mature and responsible woman that she is, understood the potential consequences of continuing whatever romantic entanglement had developed between herself and Deacon. She knew that maintaining this relationship would only lead to heartbreak, scandal, and destruction of multiple families and relationships that mattered deeply to so many people. But Taylor did not know what was waiting for her in the shadows of that apartment. She had no idea that someone else had been watching, listening, and growing, increasingly jealous with each passing moment. Sheila Carter, a name that has become synonymous with chaos, obsession, and unpredictable behavior throughout the series, was lurking in the darkness of Deacon's apartment. Sheila's eyes burned with a fury that had been building for weeks, months perhaps. Her rage was not just simple jealousy, it was an all-consuming, obsessive anger that had completely taken over her rational mind. Sheila had done something that showed the extent of her obsession and her complete disregard for privacy and boundaries. She had secretly installed tracking software on Deacon's phone without his knowledge or consent. This was not a spontaneous act of desperation. This was a calculated, premeditated action. Through this invasive software, Sheila had access to every message, every conversation, every intimate detail of Deacon's communications. And what she discovered sent her into a spiral of uncontrollable rage. The messages between Taylor and Deacon were undeniably romantic in nature. They contained terms of endearment, expressions of affection, and intimate conversations that could only mean one thing. There was definitely a romantic and likely physical relationship developing between these two people. For Sheila, this discovery was the final straw. She had been convinced, despite all evidence to the contrary, that Deacon belonged to her, that their connection was special and unbreakable. The reality of his romantic involvement with Taylor shattered whatever fragile grip on sanity Sheila had maintained. As Taylor stepped through the apartment door, completely unaware of the danger that awaited her, Sheila made her move. She had positioned herself strategically in the darkness, waiting for this exact moment. When Taylor entered, Sheila was there, and the look in her eyes was absolutely terrifying. This was not the Sheila that people knew from before. This was a woman completely consumed by rage, jealousy, and obsessive love taken to its darkest extreme. In her hand, Sheila held a fruit knife, a seemingly ordinary kitchen implement that would soon become the center of this violent confrontation. Without hesitation, without giving Taylor any chance to explain or defend herself, Sheila lunged forward with the knife, her intention clear to harm the woman she saw as a rival for Deacon's affection. This was the moment when everything changed, when the situation escalated from emotional drama to physical violence. Taylor, despite her usual composure and rational thinking, found herself in a situation where she had to fight for her own safety and survival. The attack was sudden and vicious, leaving Taylor no choice but to defend herself with every ounce of strength she possessed. What happened next was a desperate struggle between two women, one attacking with murderous intent and the other fighting purely for her own life and safety. During this violent confrontation, Taylor managed to push back against Sheila's assault. The struggle was intense and chaotic, with both women locked in a desperate battle. In the midst of this chaos, Sheila lost her balance and fell backward, her body colliding with a glass liquor cabinet. The impact was severe, the glass shattered, and the scene descended into absolute pandemonium. Blood spattered across the floor and furniture, creating a horrific tableau of violence and destruction. But the story does not end there. In the confusion and desperation of the moment and the heat of the violent struggle for survival, Taylor found herself holding the knife, whether through accident or through some instinctive need to ensure that Sheila could not continue her attack. Taylor used that knife in a way that would have permanent and devastating consequences. Sheila Carter, the woman who had orchestrated this entire violent confrontation through her obsessive behavior and invasive monitoring, was killed. The realization of what had happened hit both Taylor and Deacon like a thunderbolt. When Deacon arrived at his apartment moments later, he was confronted with a scene of absolute horror. The woman he had been involved with romantically, Taylor, was standing in the midst of chaos and blood. And there on the floor was Sheila Carter, who would never cause trouble, never obsess, never hurt anyone again. She was gone, and there was no way to undo what had happened. In that moment of shock and panic, both Taylor and Deacon made a decision that would define their characters and set the stage for even greater drama to come. They decided to cover up what had happened. They decided to hide Sheila's body and conceal the truth about what had occurred in that apartment. This was not a decision made with clear thinking or rational consideration. It was a decision made in panic, in fear, and in the desperate hope that somehow they could make this all go away. They worked together to remove all evidence of the violence that had occurred. They cleaned the blood, disposed of the knife, and most importantly, they hid Sheila's body where they believed it would never be found. They created a cover story, decided what they would tell people if asked, and tried to return to their normal lives as if nothing had happened. But both of them knew deep in their hearts that they had crossed a line from which there could be no return. The days that followed were filled with anxiety, fear, and the constant dread that their secret would be discovered. Every phone call from the police, every unexpected visitor, every news report about missing persons sent shivers down their spines. They had to maintain their normal routines, had to interact with family members and friends, all while carrying this enormous secret that weighed heavily on their consciences. But secrets have a way of coming to light no matter how carefully they are hidden or how desperately people try to keep them buried. It would not take long for the authorities to notice that Sheila Carter was missing. And when they began to investigate her disappearance, it would only be a matter of time before the truth started to emerge. Deacon and Taylor had bought themselves some temporary peace, but they had also set themselves on a collision course with justice and accountability. The question now becomes, how long can they maintain this charade? How much longer before someone discovers the truth about what really happened in that apartment? When the police begin to investigate Sheila's disappearance, what evidence will they find? Will Taylor and Deacon's attempts to hide the body prove successful? Or will they have made mistakes that lead directly back to them? This storyline represents the ultimate consequences of obsessive behavior, inappropriate relationships, and the desperation that leads people to make irreversible decisions. It shows how quickly a situation can escalate from emotional drama to physical violence to murder and cover-up. It demonstrates the fragility of human relationships and how jealousy and obsession can transform ordinary people into individuals capable of extraordinary acts of violence. The implications of this story are far-reaching and would have massive consequences for everyone involved. Families would be torn apart. Trust would be shattered. The simple act of one person's obsessive behavior and invasion of privacy has now led to a death and a conspiracy to cover it up. The ripple effects of this tragedy will touch the lives of everyone connected to Deacon, Taylor, and Sheila. As we contemplate this dramatic scenario, we are forced to consider the deeper themes of love, obsession, jealousy, and the thin line between passion and violence. We see how easily someone like Sheila, consumed by obsessive love and unable to accept rejection or the reality that Deacon had moved on to someone else, could escalate a situation to the point of attempted murder. And we see how Taylor defending herself in a moment of desperation could end up crossing a moral line that cannot be crossed. This is the kind of storytelling that has made The Bold and the Beautiful such a compelling and dramatic series for decades. It takes real human emotions and conflicts and pushes them to their most extreme conclusions. It forces viewers to question their own judgments and consider what they would do in similar circumstances. It creates moral complexity where there are no easy answers and no simple resolutions. The aftermath of such an event would be devastating for everyone involved. Deacon would have to live with the knowledge that his romantic involvement with Taylor led to Sheila's death. Taylor would have to carry the burden of having taken a life even in self-defense. and the families of all three people would have to deal with the consequences and the revelation of secrets that were never meant to be exposed. Thank you for joining me as we explored this intense and dramatic storyline. This is exactly the kind of content that keeps audiences engaged with shows like The Bold and the Beautiful. The combination of romance, betrayal, violence, and moral complexity creates a narrative that is both compelling and deeply disturbing. It reminds us why we love soap operas and the dramatic situations they create. If you enjoyed this analysis and storytelling, please make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you do not miss any of our future content. We will continue to explore the most dramatic and shocking storylines from your favorite soap operas. Leave a comment below and let me know what you think about this scenario and how you believe it should be resolved. Thank you for watching, and we will see you in the next video.